Hey there, Raider Nation. Welcome to Colgate's coverage of National Signing Day. My name is Scott Kornberg, and I'm joined here by head football coach Dan Hunt. We're going to give you everything you need to know about the Colgate football class of 2018. But this is a big class for you, Coach Hunt. It's your first as the head coach. You were an assistant here at Colgate for nearly 20 years. How have your responsibilities differed in the recruiting now that you've moved up to the head position?
Well, I think the first thing was I had to sign my name quite a bit, that I didn't have to do as an assistant, signing all the NLIs and the scholarships agreements. The other thing that's different is as an assistant, I really concentrated on one area of the country. I recruited the state of Florida. Once I became the head coach, I was able to go out with the assistants and see the top kids in different areas of the country. So I was in Chicago, I was in Pennsylvania, I was in New Jersey, kind of got to meet a whole new set of high school coaches and see a different part of the country. So that really was a little bit different as a role of, for lack of a better word, closer, even though I think our teams are closers, but that's kind of the role I assumed, and it was a nice change.
So a little Mariano Rivera, a little bit.
Yeah, Enter the Sandman.
So, Coach, going after the season, what were your biggest needs that you identified for recruiting?
Well, obviously, with the number of scholarships we had and the number of slots we had, we really had to make sure we were disciplined in addressing specific needs. For instance, at wide receiver, we knew the type of kid we needed. We needed a bigger type kid as opposed to a slot type receiver. We wanted to make sure we continued to improve our depth on the offensive line. That was an area that even last year was an issue, and this year it was a push for us. You always want to get a quality quarterback, and in our offense, you always want to get depth and quality at the running back position. Defensively, we had to make sure that we stocked a corner type and a safety type, take two inside and an outside linebacker, and make sure we got some big guys up front. So we really made sure that we addressed the whole team needs this year to make sure that we have enough depth going forward.
Now, Coach, 4 players each from Illinois and Pennsylvania. That's the most of any state. Why those 2 states? Obviously, Pennsylvania not all that far away, but Illinois, half the country away. Have you had previous recruiting success in those 2 areas?
Well, Pennsylvania's always been good to us. We're really not all that far from there. Like you said, it's an area that we recruit pretty heavily. And so that's always an area that we're going to get quality kids from that state. And then as far as Illinois, Coach Kasula, our receiver coach, he had some ties out there. He'd been out there. He knew the area. So we sent him out there this year. And that was an area we wanted to improve on. I think as you look at this whole class, it's very spread out geographically. And that was something we made that a goal going into recruiting. Last year's class was a lot of Florida, a lot of New Jersey, which is great, but also we want to make sure that we represent the whole country. So those areas became a push for us, and when you look at the map of how this class is spread out geographically, I think we achieved that goal.
Yeah, actually 11 different states in your Colgate football class of 2018. So let's now talk about the prospects. Obviously, quarterback position is a big one. Gavin McCarney, your starter the last few years, he's obviously moved on. And you signed a guy in Brett Mooney. What can you tell us about him?
Brett is a kid. He visited us early during the season. He came to our camp. Really impressed us at camp. That was more than anything we saw on film. To be able to work with him at our camp and see him play live, that really set the seed for us that he was going to be a good one. The thing that he brings to the table in our offense, the quarterback's got to be able to run, which he certainly can do. He showed that he's got speed, he's got toughness, he can do all of that, but then the difference too is he can really throw the football. He's a big kid. He'll be one of the bigger quarterbacks we have in the program, and one of the impressive things about him was he was a winner. He took his team to his first title that they'd had in quite some time with some late game heroics, which is always impressive to see out of that position.
Yeah, Mooney, a big guy, you're right, 6'4", 210. And you mentioned offensive line as a place where you really need to add depth. You've got 5 linemen in this class: Max Hartzman, Anthony Khalifi, Ryan Polish, Andy Sims, and Scott Hirschman. That's a lot of different players right there. What do you see from this group?
I really think this is a very quality group on the offensive line. We basically, there's 5 linemen that play, and we signed 5 linemen. So you look at it, we sign an entire line. They all are pretty similar in build. They're not 6'6", 280, 290-pound kids. They're in that 6'3" range, 6'4", very physical kids. Max is another Chicago kid. He is an inside guy, very strong, very physical. Actually played both sides of the ball, but we're definitely going to use him on the O-line. Anthony is another kid who played both offensive and defensive line. His father played here. He was an All-American for us here, and so we're fortunate to keep that Colgate bloodline going. Ryan Polish is a kid right down the road in Old Forge, Pennsylvania. Definitely our type of kid as far as a hard-nosed, working, physical kid. Another kid who played both sides of the football in high school, but he will be playing on the offensive line for us. And Andy Sims, another Ohio kid. Ohio was another area we got into pretty good, and he was a kind of a later pickup for us that we are extremely happy with. He's a physical, great athletic kid. A lot of those kids actually played center in high school, which is impressive for us because it gives us more guys that can shotgun snap. So they won't all play center when they're here, but it's nice to have a little depth there.
Yeah, certainly. And a guy another one of your offensive line recruits who played both ways, Scott Hirschman. He is something like that. Both-way players, guys who can really move on the offensive line. Is that something you seem to be looking for?
Yeah, for what we do, and Scott's a great example of that. I mean, Scott could easily play on the defensive line, but he's just a better fit for us on the offensive line this year. But he's an athlete. That's what we need our offensive linemen to be. In our scheme, they have to be able to run. They have to play well in space. So you'll find that a lot of our offensive linemen were also defensive linemen.
Now, skill position players on the offense, a couple running backs, James Holland, Keon Washington. It seems like they could really run. They've got speed in the upper 4.4s of the 40-yard dash, low 4.5s. Was that what you're looking for, speed?
Yeah, and you look at those two. They're two different types of backs. James is a thick kid. He's almost 200 pounds now. He's very powerful. If you watch his film, very powerful runner. He can run you over. He's shifty enough to make you miss, and he's great catching the ball out of the backfield. But he's definitely your inside between the tackles, pound you, wear you down type running back. And then Keon's a kid. He's a good enough athlete. He can obviously in the running game. He'll be your outside speed home run threat. He'll be a guy you could put him in the slot and throw him the ball. Heck, he could probably even play defense too if we asked him to. So return kicks and things like that. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but boy can he run, and he's a great athlete. So we're excited about both those kids.
Coach, and to round out your offense, you kind of have an H-back type, a fullback tight end, Jose Alvarado, and your one wide receiver of this class, Alex Greenewalt.
Jose's a kid. Again, he was a kid we've been recruiting for a while. He committed to us fairly early. Kid from Miami, plays at a great high school. He truly is, to use the term H-back, he could play fullback, he can play tight end, which is great, which is important for us because that's what that position for us has become is he will line up at both and even in the backfield. And he's athletic, he's big, he can catch, he can run, and he certainly enjoys to block. If you watch his film, he's a very physical kid. So he's certainly fit the need for us as the only true tight end type right now in the class. As far as Alex, he's what we were looking for in a wide receiver. He is a tall, big kid who can line up on the backside of a formation and really create some fits for a defense. And we need that in this offense. There needs to be that threat of if you put too many in the box, we've got a big target out there who can go up and make a play. And he can also run well enough to take a small pass and make it a long gain. So we're real excited about both those kids.
Yeah, Alex Greenewald in particular, 6'4", good height, 4.5 40 times. So he looks like a good pickup. Now, defensively, a big linebacker class for you. You had 4 linebackers, Patrick Afriye, Peter Crossett, Eric Kushner, and Trent Williams. That's a big class for you guys.
Yeah, we're going to be actually utilizing more linebackers. So certainly that is a position that we felt we needed to add some depth to. Patrick Afriye from Connecticut, he's physically one of the most impressive-looking men we've ever seen. He's going to really, when you see him, you're going to turn your head. He's a great-looking physical kid. He was also a running back in high school. And to be honest with you, could probably do that here also. Just a great athlete who can run and is physical and has great wingspan and great potential to get a lot bigger. So we're real excited about him. Peter, local kid, Syracuse kid, great student, always going to add. It's always nice to add a local kid to the recruiting class. He plays with a lot of passion. There's certainly, if you watch him go, there's no doubt he's going to run to the football. Eric Kushner is a Massachusetts kid, another great student, very good on film. He was just up last weekend, had a good visit. We're excited about where he's going to fit, probably as the outside linebacker position for us. Trent Williams, another Chicago kid. Again, same type kid. We've been recruiting him for a while. He came up to see us fairly early in the season. Good size outside linebacker. can cover, which is important in our defense, and can stop the run. So that group is really solid top to bottom, and it's going to give us a lot of depth at that position, which we're going to need.
And you mentioned coverage of your linebackers. You signed 3 defensive backs as well. So it seems like the back end of that defense was a real big part of what you were looking for. Those 3 guys, Patrick Crow, Shar Marine, and Alec Wisniewski, those 3 guys, continue to add depth to that back end of your defense.
Yeah, and that's always an area. Those kids are invaluable because they're also going to be great special teams players. If you're a defensive back, you can run, you're good in space, and you can tackle. Patrick's coming to us up from D.C. Another kid had a great visit. Really a ball hawk. If you watch his film, he's always around the football. Physical kid, very good student, again, which they all are, but in particular, he's an outstanding student. Alec Wisniewski is one of the most physical films I've ever seen. I just honestly had a joy watching him play. We always look for guys that part of what they want to do in football and the reason they play is because they enjoy hitting people. And if you watch his film, he certainly does. He will be a physical presence in our secondary. And again, another New York kid, which is important to us to be good in this state. And Shar comes to us from Valdosta, Georgia. Again, one of the best athletes in the class. If you watch him, he's a lot of receiver, a lot of DB. We definitely feel that he can make a pretty quick impact for us in the back end defensively. And there's another kid, to be honest with you, that could probably play on the other side of the ball too. Just we felt that that's where we needed to put him, but we're real excited about him.
And Coach, to round out your defensive class right now, a couple linemen, Connor Buck, Curtis Mitchell, guys who have pretty tall to be able to bat down some passes, but also a lot of quickness as well, it seems.
Yeah, those are 2 guys. Again, they'll be the first 2 off the bus. They're good-looking kids. Connor comes to us from Connecticut. We were recruiting him for a while. He came up to a couple games. And we're fortunate to get him. He's going to be that powerful run stopper also. He's a very strong kid. He will, like you said, he'll be able to bat down some passes and get after the passer. Very athletic, but a very impressive-looking kid. We're fortunate to have him. And then Curtis Mitchell, another Ohio kid. He's the one kid in the class that I actually physically look up to. He's taller than I am, so he's going to be fantastic as far as getting in passing lanes and getting his hands up. And he can run, and for what we do, he'll drop into pass coverage a little bit and make some plays there. Just a great athlete, and he's got a ton of potential ahead of him when he gets in the weight room for a little while.
Coach, speaking of athletes, your furthest person listed in your class is Connor Wingenroth out of California. He's listed as an athlete. Where do you see him potentially playing at Colgate?
He could go in a lot of different ways. We're going to start him off playing on offense. He's going to play mostly. You're going to start him with the receivers, but he's also a receiver who you could hand the ball to. He'll be a kid that I would say over his time here, his position may change more than one time in that we're just going to keep trying to get him on the field with the ball in his hands in ways to help our team. That's why we list him as an athlete. He's just he's one of those hard to define guys, but we're going to put him wherever we can use him the most and let him contribute.
Coach, this is the 2nd year of scholarships for the Patriot League. How has that transition been for your team?
I think it's been great. We've been able to get a different type of athlete and a different type of student. That's really been the goal of the scholarships, and I think it's working. One of the things we've noticed about the scholarships is it really forces recruiting to move a little quicker. We've had a lot of commitments that came during the season this year, which really – before scholarships, you weren't getting that many. But so that's certainly one of the main differences between the way we did it before and the way we do it now. And we're excited to be able to have the scholarships to mix in with the players we have now and work towards winning another title.
Now, Coach, obviously first-year players seem to make a pretty big difference in the Patriot League last year. Are there any guys in your program that stood out to you, freshmen from last year, soon to be sophomores? Are there any freshmen coming in this incoming class that you think could really make an impact right away?
Well, I think they all have the potential to coming in. We felt that with the first class of scholarship kids that we needed to have them ready to go. And for our freshmen that played this year, they came in after an injury and we're ready to go. I think it's kind of tough to say a kid's going to walk in and start as a freshman and to, hey, watch for him the first game. But I also think that they will, somewhere in this class, there's freshmen that are going to play next year and contribute. And that's what's nice about having the diversity that we have in this class from a position standpoint is we're covered at each one of those. But as I look at our current freshmen, you know, I know a lot of the quarterbacks in this league got a lot of hype. You know, being at Holy Cross and at Lehigh and at Lafayette. But I think that, you know, Jordy, our offensive lineman, who was an all-league kid as a freshman, was as good as any of them. He just plays offensive line, so a lot of people don't know it. So, you know, somewhere out there in this class is definitely going to be some guys that are going to help us next year.
All right, Coach. Thanks a lot. Congratulations on your first class as a head coach at Colgate University.
Thank you. And, you know, we do have 4 or 5 more kids who, through paperwork issues, we can't release today, but look for those names coming next week.